The mining station, Kepler 442, hung in the void like a broken toy. Its hull breached in 17 different places. Captain Zara Voss of the Galactic Federation pressed her face against the observation deck window, watching debris slowly tumble past her rescue ship. The station's emergency lights flickered weakly, casting eerie shadows across twisted metal and shattered glass. "How many survivors?" she asked her communications officer, a tall Rigelian with blue-tinted skin. 43 confirmed alive, Captain. They're trapped in the lower mining levels. The station's artificial gravity failed 12 hours ago. The officer's voice carried the weight of bad news. The rescue pods were destroyed in the initial explosion. Zara closed her 4 eyes, a habit from her Altarian heritage when facing difficult decisions. The mining accident had been catastrophic. A pocket of unstable gas had ignited during deep excavation, tearing through the station like a bomb. Most of the crew had been evacuated in the first wave, but the miners working the deepest shafts had been cut off when the main elevator shaft collapsed. "What's our rescue capability?" she asked her chief engineer, a stocky centauri with mechanical implants covering half his face. "Limited, Captain. Our rescue shuttles can't navigate through the debris field safely. The station's structure is too unstable. One wrong move and the whole thing could collapse further." He paused, checking his tablet. "The survivors have maybe 18 hours of air left in their emergency shelters." Zara turned to study the tactical display, showing their small rescue fleet. 3 Federation ships, all designed for standard evacuations, not complex disaster recovery. The nearest heavy rescue vessel was 6 days away. The survivors would be dead long before help arrived. "Captain, we're receiving a distress response from an unknown vessel," the communications officer announced, his translator making his words sound mechanical. "They're requesting permission to assist with rescue operations." "Unknown vessel? Run their identification." The officer's fingers danced across his console. "No match in our databases, Captain. The ship appears to be of human origin, but their technology signatures are unusual." Zara felt her stomach tighten. Humans were relatively new to the galactic community, having joined the Federation only 50 years ago. Most species still viewed them as primitive, despite their surprising adaptability. Their ships were considered crude but functional, like tools built by children who understood the basic principles but lacked refinement. "Put them through," she decided. The main screen flickered to life, showing the interior of what appeared to be a human ship's bridge. The lighting was harsh and white, very different from the soft, multi-spectrum illumination most advanced species preferred. A human male with graying hair and intense brown eyes looked directly at her. "Captain Voss, this is Admiral Marcus Chen of the Terran vessel Prometheus. We've been monitoring the situation and would like to offer assistance." "Admiral Chen, I appreciate the offer, but this is a Federation rescue operation. We have protocols. With respect, Captain, your protocols are failing." Chen's voice remained calm but firm. "We have specialized equipment that might help. My ship carries deep space mining rescue gear." Zara exchanged glances with her officers. The Centauri engineer shrugged his metallic shoulders. "It couldn't hurt to hear what they're proposing, Captain. We're running out of options." "What exactly are you suggesting, Admiral?" Chen leaned forward slightly. "My ship has experimental phase shift technology. We can partially shift our vessel into subspace, allowing us to pass through solid matter for short distances. We could position ourselves directly below the trapped miners and extract them through the station's hull." The bridge fell silent. Phase shift technology was theoretical for most species, something discussed in academic circles but never successfully implemented. The energy requirements alone were staggering. "That's impossible," the Rigelian communications officer whispered. "The power needed would require a star's core." "Admiral, I need to see your vessel," Zara said. The screen switched to an external view, and Zara felt her breath catch. The human ship was massive, easily 3 times the size of her largest rescue vessel. Its hull was a dark gray metal that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Strange geometric patterns covered its surface, and energy readings showed power levels that shouldn't be possible for a ship that size. "How did you build this?" she asked. Chen smiled grimly. Humans have a saying, Captain. Necessity is the mother of invention. We've lost too many miners to cave-ins and station collapses over the years. We decided to do something about it. The risks are enormous, her engineer protested. If the phase shift fails while you're inside the station's structure, we'll be atomized, Chen finished. We're aware of the risks, but 43 people are going to die if we don't try. Zara studied the tactical display again. The human ship had positioned itself below the mining station, its massive form dwarfing the damaged facility. Energy readings showed they were charging something that made her instruments scream warnings about impossible power levels. Admiral, what do you need from us? Just stay clear, and be ready to receive survivors. We'll need medical support for anyone who's been exposed to the toxic gases from the explosion. Understood. But Admiral, if this goes wrong, it won't, Chen said with the kind of confidence that came from either supreme skill or complete madness. We've done this before. The transmission ended, leaving Zara alone with her doubts and her crew's nervous energy. Through the observation window, she watched the human ship begin to change. The geometric patterns on its hull started glowing with a blue-white light that hurt to look at directly. Space itself seemed to bend around the vessel, creating visual distortions that made her eyes water. Captain, their power output is climbing beyond our ability to measure, her engineer reported, his voice filled with awe and terror. Whatever they're doing, it's generating more energy than our entire fleet combined. All ships, maintain distance, Zara ordered. If that thing explodes, we don't want to be caught in the blast radius. The human ship began to fade, becoming translucent like a ghost. The mining station's hull, which should have been solid metal, seemed to offer no resistance as the Prometheus slowly descended through it. Zara watched in fascination as the massive vessel passed through layers of deck plating, machinery, and structural supports as if they were made of mist. This is impossible, her communications officer repeated, his blue skin pale with shock. Tell that to the humans, Zara muttered. Alarms suddenly blared across the mining station's emergency frequency. The trapped miners were reporting strange phenomena. Lights passing through solid walls, and the impossible sight of a ship materializing inside their emergency shelter areas. Captain Voss, this is Admiral Chen. We have visual contact with the survivors, beginning extraction procedures now. Through her instruments, Zara could see the human ship's energy signature fluctuating wildly. Whatever technology they were using was pushing the boundaries of physics itself. The very fabric of space around the mining station seemed to ripple and wave like water. Minutes passed like hours. Then, slowly, the Prometheus began to rise, still translucent, still defying everything Zara understood about the universe. As it cleared the mining station's hull, the ship began to solidify again, its strange glow fading to normal space black. Federation vessels, this is Admiral Chen. We have all 43 survivors aboard. Some require immediate medical attention for gas exposure and decompression injuries, requesting permission to transfer them to your medical facilities. Zara stared at her tactical display, unable to process what she had just witnessed. The human ship had done the impossible, rescuing people from what should have been an unreachable location using technology that shouldn't exist. Permission granted, Admiral, and thank you. Just doing what humans do best, Captain. We don't give up on people. As the first rescue shuttles launched from the Prometheus, carrying survivors who should have been corpses, Zara realized that the galaxy had seriously underestimated humanity. If they could build ships that ignored the fundamental laws of physics to save lives, what else were they capable of? The thought both thrilled and terrified her in equal measure. Admiral Marcus Chen stood in the medical bay of his ship, watching as the last of the miners received treatment. The survivors looked like they had been through hell, which wasn't far from the truth. Burns, broken bones, and severe gas poisoning had left most of them in critical condition. But they were alive, and that was what mattered. Admiral, we have an incoming transmission from Captain Voss, reported Lieutenant Sarah Kim, his communications officer. She wants to speak with you privately. Chen nodded and made his way to his ready room. The Prometheus was unlike any other ship in human space, built specifically for impossible rescues. Its corridors were lined with the same dark metal as its hull, and the air hummed with barely contained energy. Most humans found the ship unsettling. Chen found it comforting. The wall screen activated, showing Captain Voss on her ship's bridge. Her 4 Altarian eyes studied him with an intensity that most humans would find disturbing. Chen had dealt with enough alien species to know she was trying to read his intentions. "Admiral Chen, I need to ask you something directly," she began. "The technology your ship used today, it's not in any Federation database. Our scientists have been trying to develop stable phase shift systems for over 2 centuries. How did humans accomplish this?" Chen leaned back in his chair. He had expected this question, but that didn't make it easier to answer. "Captain, human development has always followed a different path than most species. We tend to brute force solutions to problems that others consider impossible." "That's not an answer, Admiral." "No, it isn't." Chen stood and walked to a wall display showing technical specifications. "The truth is, Captain, we developed this technology out of desperation. 47 years ago, a human colony ship called the New Hope was trapped in a collapsing wormhole. 7,000 colonists, including my daughter, were going to die unless someone found a way to extract them from inside a spatial anomaly." Voss leaned forward, her expression softening slightly. "What happened?" "Human engineers worked for 6 months straight, sleeping in their labs, pushing themselves beyond physical limits. They theorized that if they could briefly shift a rescue ship into the same dimensional phase as the anomaly, they could reach the colonists." Chen's voice grew quiet. "The first 3 attempts failed. The test ships were destroyed instantly. But the 4th attempt succeeded? The 4th attempt was made by my wife, Dr. Elena Chen. She piloted the prototype herself." Chen turned away from the screen. "She saved all 7,000 colonists, including our daughter. The ship was so damaged by the phase shift that she barely made it back to normal space. She died 3 days later from radiation poisoning." The bridge of Voss's ship was silent. Chen could see the respect in her eyes, the understanding that came with recognizing true sacrifice. "I'm sorry for your loss, Admiral. But that still doesn't explain how you've refined the technology to this level." "Because we never stopped improving it," Chen replied. "Every human ship now carries some version of phase shift capability. We've lost too many people to preventable disasters. The Prometheus represents 50 years of continuous development, built by a species that refuses to accept that some rescues are impossible. The energy requirements alone should be beyond your capabilities." Chen smiled grimly. "Captain, you've been thinking like most advanced species. You try to find elegant solutions, efficient systems that work within established parameters. Humans approach problems differently. We ask what's needed to save lives, then we figure out how to provide it." He pulled up a schematic of the Prometheus's power core. "Our ship doesn't use antimatter or zero-point energy like Federation vessels. We use something much more dangerous. We carry 12 miniaturized black holes, each one contained in a gravitational cage. When we need power for phase shifting, we feed matter directly into them." Voss's 4 eyes widened in shock. "That's insane. If your containment fails, then we all die, along with anyone within 50 light-years." Chen's expression remained calm. "But it works. Raw, unrefined, dangerous as hell. But it works." Before Voss could respond, alarms began blaring throughout both ships. Chen's tactical display lit up with warning signals as something massive emerged from hyperspace near the mining station. "Admiral, we have a problem." Lieutenant Kim's voice came through the comm system. "Long-range sensors are detecting a Cathara raid fleet approaching our position." Chen felt ice form in his stomach. The Cathara were one of the galaxy's most feared species. Slavers who captured other beings for their labor camps. They had been monitoring Federation territory for months, looking for opportunities to strike at vulnerable locations. "Captain Voss, are you seeing this?" "Confirmed, Admiral. 12 Cathara heavy cruisers. ETA 15 minutes. My ships can't fight that fleet. We need to evacuate immediately." All redoubled. Chen studied his tactical display. The Kythara ships were fast and heavily armed. Designed for quick raids and rapid extraction, his rescue fleet was outnumbered 4-1, and most of the Federation vessels were science ships with minimal weapons. "Admiral, we need to run," Voss urged. "The Prometheus may be advanced, but against 12 Kythara cruisers." "Captain, how many civilians are still on the mining station?" There was a pause. "Approximately 200 support staff and their families. They're in the upper levels, but the station's transporters are down. It would take hours to evacuate them manually. The Kythara will arrive in 15 minutes. I know the math, Admiral. We can't save them all." Chen looked at his power core readings. The phase shift operation had drained significant energy, but the black holes were already recharging the system. The Prometheus had other capabilities, systems that had never been tested in real combat. "Captain Voss, I want you to take your ships and begin immediate evacuation of the station's upper levels. Get as many people out as you can." "What about your ship? We're going to buy you time." "Admiral, one ship against 12 Kythara cruisers is suicide." Chen turned to face the screen directly. "Captain, you've spent the last hour asking me how humans accomplish the impossible. You're about to find out." Quote, he cut the transmission and activated the ship's general communication system. "All hands. This is the Admiral. We have incoming hostiles targeting civilian populations. The Federation ships need time to complete evacuations. We're going to give them that time." The bridge of the Prometheus came alive with activity. Officers moved with practiced efficiency, bringing weapon systems online and reconfiguring the ship's exotic systems for combat. The dark corridors filled with the sound of charging capacitors and humming machinery. "Sir, the Kythara fleet has dropped out of hyperspace," reported his tactical officer. "They're moving to intercept the Federation ships." Chen watched as 12 angular, predatory ships approached. Each Kythara cruiser was a third the size of the Prometheus, but they carried weapons that could crack moons in half. Their hull designs emphasized speed and firepower over defense, perfect for their hit-and-run tactics. "Engineering. What's our status on the experimental systems?" "All systems green, Admiral. But sir, we've never tested them in real combat conditions. Today seems like a good day to start." Chen settled into his command chair. "Helm, take us between the Kythara fleet and the mining station." Full phase shift combat configuration. The Prometheus began to move, its massive bulk accelerating faster than physics should have allowed. The space around the ship started to distort as the phase shift systems came online. Not for rescue operations this time, but for something far more dangerous. "Admiral, incoming transmission from the Kythara fleet commander," Lieutenant Kim reported. On screen, the bridge's main display showed a Kythara warrior. Its reptilian features twisted in what might have been amusement. The creature's scales were a deep green color, and its eyes glowed with predatory intelligence. "Human vessel, you are interfering with a lawful salvage operation. Stand down immediately, or be destroyed." Chen studied the alien commander. Kythara considered any disaster zone fair game for raiding, claiming that abandoning property made it legally salvageable. It was a thin pretense for slavery and theft. "This is Admiral Marcus Chen of the Terran vessel Prometheus. These are Federation civilians under our protection. You will withdraw immediately." The Kythara commander's throat sac inflated, a sign of either anger or amusement. "One human ship thinks to threaten the third raiding fleet? Your ignorance will be corrected shortly." The transmission ended. On the tactical display, Chen watched as the Kythara ships formed a perfect attack formation, their movements coordinated with military precision. They had done this hundreds of times before, swooping in on disaster zones to capture survivors for their slave markets. "All weapons charged and ready, Admiral," his tactical officer reported. "Engineering. Bring the black hole containment fields to combat configuration." "Sir, if we lose control during battle, then we die fighting instead of running." "I can live with that choice." Chen gripped his command chair. "All ships. This is Admiral Chen. Today you're going to see what happens when humans decide that retreat is not an option." The first Kythara missiles struck the Prometheus's shields, creating brilliant explosions that lit up the void, but the massive human ship barely slowed. its exotic defenses absorbing energy that should have vaporized it. The real battle was about to begin. The Cathara missiles exploded against the Prometheus's shields like fireworks against a mountain. Admiral Chen watched the tactical display as his ship absorbed hits that would have crippled most Federation vessels. The exotic matter composing their hull was designed for more than just phase shifting. "Return fire," Chen ordered. "Show them what human engineering looks like when we're angry." The Prometheus's weapon systems came online with a sound like thunder rolling through the ship's corridors. Instead of traditional energy beams or projectile weapons, the human ship fired concentrated gravity wells, warping space itself around the Cathara vessels. Two enemy cruisers found themselves caught in gravitational eddies that crushed their hulls like tin cans. "Impossible!" The Cathara fleet commander's voice crackled through the communications channel. "No species has weaponized gravitational manipulation to this degree." Chen stood from his command chair, watching as his ship's experimental systems performed beyond their theoretical capabilities. "You picked the wrong species to threaten, Commander. Humans don't surrender, and we don't abandon our people." The battle turned into something unprecedented in galactic warfare. The Cathara ships moved like pack hunters, using their speed and numbers to attack from multiple angles. But the Prometheus fought like a force of nature, bending the laws of physics to its will. When three Cathara cruisers tried to flank the human ship, the Prometheus phase-shifted part of its hull, allowing their weapons to pass harmlessly through empty space, while Chen's return fire materialized inside their shields. Two more enemy ships exploded in brilliant fireballs. "Admiral, the Federation ships report they've evacuated 60% of the station's civilians," Lieutenant Kim announced. "Captain Voss is requesting more time to get the rest." "Tell her she'll have it," Chen replied, watching as the remaining Cathara ships regrouped for another attack. 7 enemy vessels remained, but they were clearly shaken by losses that shouldn't have been possible. The Cathara commander tried a desperate gambit, ordering his remaining ships to concentrate all firepower on a single section of the Prometheus. The combined assault should have penetrated even the human ship's exotic defenses. Instead, Chen smiled and activated a system that had never been tested outside computer simulations. "Engineering, initiate black hole weapon protocol." "Sir, are you sure?" "The energy release. Do it." The Prometheus's hull opened like a blooming flower, revealing a nightmare of contained singularities. For just a moment, one of the ship's 12 black holes was allowed to feed unrestricted, growing in mass and gravitational pull. Then, with precision that defied belief, the human crew ejected it directly at the center of the Cathara formation. The effect was immediate and devastating. The artificial black hole, no larger than a marble but containing the mass of a small moon, tore through space toward the enemy ships. 3 Cathara cruisers were caught in its gravitational field before they could react. The alien vessels stretched like rubber bands before disappearing beyond the event horizon, their matter adding to the black hole's mass. "Recall the singularity," Chen ordered, his voice steady despite the magnitude of what they had just done. The remaining black hole was caught by the Prometheus's gravitational cage and pulled back into containment. The human ship resealed its hull as if nothing had happened. But the tactical display told a different story. 10 Cathara ships had been reduced to 4 in less than 20 minutes. "This is impossible," the Cathara commander transmitted, his voice shaking with fear and disbelief. "Your technology violates fundamental laws of physics. How can a single ship—" "You're thinking like a civilized species," Chen interrupted. "Humans gave up on civilized solutions a long time ago. When our people are threatened, we use whatever works." The 4 remaining Cathara ships began to retreat. But Chen wasn't finished. His ship pursued them with relentless determination, gravity weapons reaching across impossible distances to cripple their engines. Within minutes, the entire raiding fleet was either destroyed or disabled, their threat eliminated completely. "Admiral, Captain Voss is requesting permission to come aboard," Lieutenant Kim reported. "She says she needs to see our ship for herself." Chen nodded, still watching the tactical display, where debris from 12 Cathara vessels drifted in expanding clouds. The rescue operation at the mining station was complete. All civilians safely evacuated. But he knew this incident would have consequences throughout the galaxy. 20 minutes later, Captain Voss materialized on the Prometheus's transport pad, flanked by two of her senior officers. Her four eyes immediately began scanning the corridors, taking in details that most beings would find disturbing. The walls hummed with barely contained energy, and the air itself seemed thick with potential violence. "Admiral Chen, I need to ask you a direct question," she said, as he led them toward the bridge. "How many ships like this does humanity possess?" Chen considered his answer carefully. "Captain, the Prometheus is one of 37 Titangent-class rescue vessels in the human fleet. Each one is designed for impossible missions in hostile environments." "Rescue vessels?" Voss's Centauri engineer stared at the massive corridors, the reinforced bulkheads, the weapon hardpoints that could barely be hidden. "This ship just destroyed an entire Kithara raiding fleet. Self-defense capabilities," Chen replied calmly. "We've learned that rescuing people often requires dealing with those who would harm them. The Prometheus and her sister ships are built to ensure that no one dies because we couldn't reach them." They reached the bridge, where Voss could see the exotic control systems that made the ship's impossible capabilities function. Her tactical officer was running scans with a handheld device, his expression growing more shocked with each reading. "Admiral, our instruments can't even identify half of your technology," the officer reported. "These power levels, the gravitational manipulation systems, the phase shift capabilities. None of this should be possible with current galactic science." "Aldercy, current galactic science is limited by what's considered acceptable risk," Chen explained. "Humans decided long ago that some things are worth any risk. Our people, our allies, our principles. We'll break physics itself before we let them die." Voss studied the tactical display, which still showed the debris field from the Kithara fleet. "Admiral, I have to report this incident to Federation Command. When they learn about human capabilities, they'll want to regulate us, control us, maybe even demand we share our technology," Chen finished. "Captain, I'm going to tell you something that I hope you'll remember. Humanity didn't develop these capabilities to conquer anyone. We built them because we refuse to accept that some people can't be saved." He pulled up a holographic display showing human space, with markers indicating rescue operations over the past decade. In 10 years, ships like the Prometheus have saved over 2 million lives. Mining accidents, ship disasters, planetary evacuations, hostage situations. Every mission considered impossible by conventional standards. "The Federation needs to know about your capabilities," Voss insisted. "If humanity has this level of technology, well, then humanity can be trusted with it," Chen interrupted. "Because we only use it to save lives. We could have conquered half the galaxy with these ships, Captain. Instead, we use them to pull miners from collapsed tunnels and evacuate civilians from raiders." The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. Voss realized she was looking at a species that had weaponized compassion, that had built an entire fleet around the principle that no one should die alone in the dark. "Admiral, there will be consequences," she said quietly. "Other species will demand explanations. Some will see humanity as a threat." "Let them," Chen replied. "Humans learned a long time ago that being underestimated is an advantage." The Kithara thought they were attacking a primitive rescue ship. Instead, they found out what happens when humans decide that enough is enough. He turned to face her directly, his expression serious. "Captain, you asked me how humans accomplish the impossible. The answer is simple. We refuse to accept that anything is impossible when lives are at stake. We'll sacrifice our ships, our safety, even our lives, before we abandon someone who needs help." Voss nodded slowly, understanding dawning in her four eyes. "The galaxy has seriously underestimated your species." "Yes," Chen agreed. "And that's exactly how we prefer it." As the Federation ships began their journey home, carrying rescued miners and stories that would reshape galactic politics, the Prometheus remained at the mining station. Its crew worked tirelessly to stabilize the damaged facility, ensuring it could be safely salvaged. They did this not for profit or recognition, but because it was what humans did. They saved people. Whatever the cost, whatever the risk, they saved people. And in a galaxy full of species that had forgotten